Beth, welcome to the Big Lag podcast. How are we doing?
Hello, I'm doing well, thank you, and thank you for having me.
No problem. It's been a while, I think, that we've been following each other on Instagram, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, I was actually reflecting on that, and you are one of the very few men that I actually follow. I mostly follow women, so feel special.
I know, privileged. Why is that you don't follow too many men? Is it just what you're sort of interested in following? Or is there a sort of reason behind that?
I don't think there's a specific reason. I think it's just, firstly, I don't follow that many people. I think in comparison to most people who spend their time on Instagram, because I think, for me, there's no point in following thousands of people. I don't spend too much time on Instagram, so I'm not going to see everyone's content. So I'd rather be very specific and intentional with the people that I follow. But I just very much enjoyed seeing your content. I feel like I probably saw it through some sort of My Protein connection or something like that. Probably. Anyway, because I feel like the other guys that I follow, I think, are also with My Protein or have worked with My Protein. But for me now, it's like purely just enjoyment of content. But I feel like probably when I first started Instagram, it was more, let's follow girls that I want to look like. So you wouldn't have fallen in that category.
Not quite. But yeah, I've had a bit of a clear out of what I've been following recently, just so more that I can see the people that I actually want to see, if you know what I mean, like the content that I want to be seeing, instead of just anyone and everyone because maybe they followed me a couple of months ago or years ago. I've started having a bit of a clear out just to reduce that number of following. Yeah,
100%. It's always so important to filter your feed. Always.
Definitely. Yeah, there's an option on it now as well to have, I can't remember what it's called. It's not the close friends because that's like your stories that certain people can see, but there's a like special following button, I think, which creates like a second feed. And then you can basically just go through all of those people so that you can have like a more concentrated feed.
Yeah, I think, is it called the favourites? I think
so. It's something like that, yeah, like favourites, special people, or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, my Instagram
I found that
actually
pretty useful.
Yeah, my Instagram was only just updated to give me that feature, and I just haven't sat down and taken the time to actually create sort of a favourites feed. So it's something I intend to do, just I haven't got around to it.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's not really high up on the priority list. So, a place that I always like to start on this podcast is finding out why people got into fitness in the first place, and then obviously you've moved on to being a PT as well. So, what is the reason that you got into fitness in the first place? Like, talk me through that story.
It's a very long story. Taking it back to like
We've got time.
Taking it back to like the very beginning, because there's been like so many different facets of my sort of fitness journey. But like taking it right back to high school, I literally could not stand exercise at all. Couldn't stand sports. I dreaded sports day and would do anything to try and get out of it. Like the second the heavens opened and it started raining and they cancelled, like the weight was just lifted off my shoulders. Could not stand any form of movement at all. However, throughout high school, I was literally always dieting, always trying some sort of like ridiculous, very stupid diet. From a very young age, I was always sort of focused on weight loss and just like aware of like the unworthiness of my body, or sort of how unworthy I felt in my body from like a really, really young age. So whenever I did attempt exercise, it was always sort of used as a punishment, and like a way to punish my body, lose weight, never for enjoyment or pleasure or to feel good or to be part of something or to feel fit, like never any of that. And sort of throughout high school, I was experiencing like what I'd probably describe as like binge episodes, and always like eating secretly or like hiding food. And I'd be like obsessed with things like the Wii Fit. Like I got on it and it was like, you're obese. So I was like, okay.
Right.
I absolutely wasn't. But looking back on pictures, I was small, not as small as most of my friends, but in no way overweight or obese. So sod off, we fit. But I'd be following like Mr. Motivator DVDs and like taking my mum's Davina McCall workout DVDs and like
proper old school.
Yeah, like holding tins of baked beans above my head to like use as weights. Wow. Yeah, it was. That's
like lockdown measures, that. Before lockdown happened.
Yeah, and I was literally doing that at like 14, 15. So that was like my experience of fitness. Very bad, very negative. And that was like all before the age of like 16. So I get to sort of the age of 18. And obviously at that age, I've got a car, I can sort of do what I want, I can go on holiday. So me and my boyfriend went on our first holiday abroad. Now, obviously, with my previous issues with my body, I wasn't feeling great in a bikini anyway. Whenever I try and take bikini pictures, I was like contorting my body. It's like really weird, horrendous poses and things like that. But he was like, I want to play tennis. And I was like, sod off. That's the last thing I want to do right now whilst on holiday is play tennis. So he made like a really innocent comment to me. He was like, I just really wish that you were sportier. So he meant that so innocently, and he still apologises for saying that to me. But all he wanted was someone to play tennis with. I sort of internalised that as, oh my God, I'm not fit enough. I need to get fit. I was already feeling like super horrible in my body anyway. So that was sort of the catalyst of, I can do what I want now. Let's join the gym. So that was sort of my introduction into the gym world. I started following people like Nikki Blacketer and Whitney Simmons, like women that I still absolutely adore to this day. But like, if you were a Gymshark athlete, I was interested in what you were doing and I wanted to be like you, look like you. It was very much that sort of time and that sort of era.
I think everyone's been through the stage of wanting to be part of Gymshark.
Yes, 100%. And I think I contribute those women to me not getting caught in like the cardio bunny stage for too long. Yes, I did hammer the treadmill, but it didn't last too long before I sort of moved onto weights and started wanting to grow certain parts of my body, while still wanting to like shrink my legs and shrink my stomach and like all the unrealistic goals that I sort of had for myself. But yeah, so I sort of went into the gym scene, got really passionate about weightlifting, but then I was still carrying my negative body image, my horrendous relationship with food, and that sort of combined together into a lot of under-eating and over-exercising, and then horrendous sort of binge episodes. Even more so now that I had access to my own food, I could go to the shops and buy whatever I wanted. And then sort of followed by a lot of guilt and restriction, and then just like sort of being trapped in that cycle for a couple of years, sort of before I then went on to sort of find the path of food freedom and healing and balance and stuff like that. So like, that's my story condensed.
Yeah, you did warn me before that this might end up as a 2-hour podcast, so we'll see how we go. But so you had a bit of a different entrance into fitness than I've had previously on the podcast. So you started off with the Wii Fit, which is, I've not heard anyone say that's how they started the journey into fitness, but I guess it's a fun way to do it.
Yes, fun in some aspects, but it was also grueling in other aspects, because one of the Wii Fit games was literally like stepping onto the board and then stepping off the board. And I genuinely thought if I put in an hour's hard work of doing this step-in thing, it was going to like fix all my issues. I was going to be the tiniest girl at school. I was going to be super, like it was going to fix everything for me.
Yeah. And then you obviously had that holiday as well where your boyfriend made an innocent comment that sort of pushed you into getting into the gym. So, like you say, you used sort of Whitney Simmons and Nikki Blackketter to sort of get into that. Did you have any other help? So maybe not so much on social media, maybe from family members, friends, or maybe a PT. Did you get any help, or did you sort of do it all yourself?
No, I literally did it all myself in terms of sort of coming into the fitness world. I did have some help, with a coach sort of getting out and finding a little bit of food freedom and balance. But I was very isolated in finding my love for fitness, hence why I created my fitness page. I was like posting fitness content to my personal page, and like quite a few people just didn't like it or didn't enjoy it, which is fair enough. But I felt very isolated. I didn't have any friends that were into fitness at that point. So I was like, right, I'm going to create my account. I believe I'd started it maybe in conjunction with like the Gymshark 6'6" challenge that they used to do. And I was like, right, I'm going to bite the bullet, start posting on this fitness page, hold myself accountable, find lots of friends, which I absolutely have done in the process. But yeah, like that start, I sort of did it all by myself. Don't get me wrong, I definitely wasted quite a lot of money on sort of like crappy generic online programs and things like that at the beginning.
Right.
And then I just sort of focused more on building the booty. That was like my only focus, like a lot of people's at the beginning. So yeah, I was sort of taking inspiration from other people's. What, sorry?
Yeah, I was going to say, when did you actually start your fitness account then? So when are we talking sort of timeline-wise?
Oh, I can't even remember. Like years ago. I'm like 26 now, almost 27. That's scary. And I feel like congratulations. I feel like I was maybe like 19 or 20 when I actually...
Oh, wow. So you've been doing it for... a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's, horrendous to look back on.
Before it was cool to have a fitness account.
Yeah, 100%.
I started one in college and it didn't go very well, so it got shut down pretty quickly. And then I restarted mine about 5 years ago with a new account, which is what I've been using since. And then then I got quite a lot of stick for starting it. And then obviously now pretty much everyone's got a second account for fitness. And it's the norm.
Yeah, I imagine
but yeah,
there may have been people sort of saying things behind my back possibly, but thankfully it just never made its way to me.
Yeah, a lot of mine got to me.
That's a shame.
Yeah, not great, but hey ho, we're here now.
Yeah.
So you were saying you invested quite a lot of money into sort of generic plans, and you said they were useless, but do you not think they may have helped you as sort of like a baseline, sort of where to start lifting weights and how to maybe structure a program instead of just going in there blindly and doing a bit of everything like a lot of people start off with?
Maybe a couple towards the end, but the plans that I was sort of picking up at the beginning were more like holistic health type plans. So it was always accompanied by like a really unrealistic meal plan that had a ton of food on that I would honestly never touch if you paid me. And it was more sort of like home workouts and sort of maybe like touching on Pilates and things like that, like stuff to do from home. So at the beginning, I definitely wasted a lot of money. And then moving on further, I probably started investing it a little bit more wisely in terms of, I think it was like Grace Fit maybe that I bought a plan from, and I found that useful and sort of a bit more effective for me. But yeah.
Yeah, I've done a bit of work with Grace Fit UK in the past. I'm not going to comment on it, but it's one of my most watched YouTube videos, put it that way. I don't know if you
gonna
remember
start
seeing it a
somewhere.
couple of years ago, but
I don't
Yeah.
remember seeing that, but I feel like as soon as I watch it, it's all going to come back to me.
yeah, I'll let you watch it and then we'll have a discussion offline.
Okay.
So you obviously then gone through your like generic plans and then came out to having a bit of help from a coach, I think you said, and then sort of finding your feet and getting some food freedom. What do you mean by the food freedom side of things? Like, what were you going through? What were your struggles, and how did you sort of overcome that? Because that's one of the main topics that we're going to be speaking about today as well.
So to give some examples, it was things like being able to go out for a meal regardless of the time. I had very strict rules in place. It was like, I can't eat after 6 o'clock. If I eat after 6 o'clock, we need to just binge. If, you know, everything has to be planned, everything has to be calculated. Is it? Why?
Yeah, because literally the last podcast I recorded, we spoke about the 6 o'clock eating after 6 and it becoming a binge.
Yeah.
So where did that come from then? Like where did the after 6 being?
I feel like it was developed purely. I don't even think it was like outside sort of influence. I think it was, I was that focused on my body, like literally the second my body changed, I would go into like a mad panic. So my sort of mentality was, the sooner I stop eating of an evening, the more of a gap I'm going to have between like my last meal and like my breakfast. So I'm going to wake up like less bloated tomorrow. So in terms of digestion, it's not the most horrendous rule to put in place, but it was then affecting socialising and being able to go out for a meal. And if someone booked a meal for 7:30, I'd go into an absolute breakdown.
In which way? Like you wouldn't eat, or you'd then just all or nothing sort of thing?
It could be both. It could be both. And it just sort of depended on how much sort of mental willpower I had, to be fair. Like some days I would try and just starve all day. Like I'd start the day intending to not eat, and then maybe it'd get to like 2-3 o'clock, and that's when I'd lose control. So then I'd binge right before we'd go out for a meal, so that I couldn't even enjoy the meal because I was still so full from the binge.
Wow. And that's literally just because you didn't want to feel sort of bloated the next day, or was there sort of other things behind that?
I think it was just that I had such a high standard of perfectionism that honestly, even eating like an extra 50 calories would send me into a tizzy and a sort of breakdown.
Right. So were you really sort of intense on tracking and MyFitnessPal and things like that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was sort of like, you know what, if I've even gone over by a little bit, and it doesn't make sense when you actually say it out loud. It doesn't make any rational sense. But the example that I often use, and my partner, bless him, he has put up with so much over the years, but I will have like perfectly calculated every single thing I was going to eat that day. So I'd be sitting down to eat my dinner, and everything would have been perfectly weighed out, perfectly portioned. Even if I was having a glass of wine, I would weigh it out and everything. So I'd sat down to eat this meal, and he's a pain in the ass for coming around and like stealing my food. So he came round and stole like a mouthful of my dinner. And the fact that he'd affected like my perfect meal, I was literally like, oh my God, like honestly, the thinking was, oh my God, what is the point? I'm just going to go and eat everything now.
Right. Okay. So then it went extreme the other way.
Yeah.
To be fair, if anyone had touched my food, regardless of it being weighed out or not, I would not be a happy person.
Yeah.
But it does happen every now and again. Like neither am I. Like, say if I've like weighed out a meal and like my dad will come over and try and nick something, I'm like, whoa, no. No. There's spare over there. If you want some, go get some.
Yeah, get your own.
It'll be one of those times where like you ask someone that, oh, do you want me to put anything in for you? Like when I'm putting something in the oven, they go, oh no. And then you've got your meal there and they come over and take some anyway. I'm like,
Yeah.
I literally asked you.
No, it is frustrating.
But yeah, very frustrating. Thank you very much for watching part 1 of the podcast. If you'd like to watch part 2, click here. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. And if you enjoyed it, drop it a like below. Thanks.